My name's Martin Alford, and I look after the Midhants Railway's more long-term projects in terms of locomotives. I suppose about 40 years ago there was talk of the locomotive graveyard at Barry in South Wales, and myself and various other people made a pilgrimage to the locomotive graveyard, which is wooden scrapyard, where there were at one time up to 250 locomotives which had all been withdrawn from British Railways, and they'd gone to the scrapyard. They'd not been cut up, so these locomotives hung on there for years and years and years. And in the late 70s and early 80s we had a visit up there, and to my astonishment I found a photo this morning of 80150, which is one of our locos that we've actually engaged in working on. So that was a historic day when I met 80150 for the first time, and I didn't know our paths were going to cross again. We can do two things with these locomotives. We can either look after them, or we can cut them up and turn them into tin cans and razor blades. Given that these things have survived for as long as they have, I think we do owe them some sort of duty of care, because these are things which survived the 1960s when railway lines were ripped off, steam locomotives were scrapped. These things have hung on for another 40 odd years, in some cases 50 years. We need to do our best for them and hand them on to the next generation in the very best condition that we can. So we started off with 80150, which is a British Railways standard tank engine, which is in terrible condition. It was one of the last to come out the scrapyard, and in the last 3.5 years we pretty much painted all of it. 80150 was one of the last locomotives built by British Railways, and it was built in 1956. It only worked for 9 years. Sir Frederick was a more glamorous mainline engine, if you like, in that it was a 462 Pacific locomotive, so it would have had rather more glamorous duties than 80150. But the two locomotives, by 1965, they were sent for scrap, because the whole of the British railway system was being electrified or dieselised at that point. And they sat in the scrapyard for many years, and eventually they came here. So we've got massive challenges just to try and reverse the decay that's gone on with them. About 2 years ago, I launched a crazy idea, which was to get a new cab roof for 80150, because while the loco was in the scrapyard, somebody ripped the roof off it. People said to me, oh, just put a bit of plywood over, or put like a shed roof. And I said to them, do you know, if we do that, that'll look rubbish. So we went the different route, and we got a proper roof made. It's been in the shed for about a year now, and it's just in the final stages of finishing it off. And when we launched the appeal for it, people decided that they liked the idea of a proper roof, and we reached our appeal target in 10 weeks. Lots of parts need to be made for 80150, because when it was in the scrapyard, all of the owners of all the other locomotives of the same class took all the useful bits off it. So we've either got to get those bits back, or we've got to make everything from scratch. And I can show you an example. When we were taking the cab apart on 80150, I found this thing, and this we think was part of the shoveling plate. And we did actually manage to scour the country, and we found a drawing. And with that drawing, we produced the finished thing. So what we've done is produced this. So with a bit of ingenuity and a bit of research, that has turned into that. And it's only one bit, but if we keep on ticking off one bit at a time, you end up with a complete locomotive at the end of it. With Sir Fred, it's slightly different, because it had a previous owner who died, and he left the locomotive to us, but he made a lot of the parts. So Sir Fred is a difficult situation. 80150, we've got to make everything, pretty much. But both locos got a future, and by conserving them and making sure that they don't deteriorate any further, that they're protected with paint, protected with a new roof, protected with tarpaulins, they've got a chance.